Hey everyone, Jake here for Extreme Terrain, and in this video we're taking a look at the J&L 3.0 oil separator with the black anodized finish, fitting 2005 and newer 4.0 liter 4Runners. If you're in it for the long haul with your 4Runner, especially if you've got or you're planning to do some additional engine modifications, then something like this oil separator from J&L should be on your short list. This is an easy, effective modification that's going to help extend the life of your engine, and it comes in at a very reasonable price. Part of the draw of a 4Runner is of course its reliability, so most of you who buy them want them to run as long as possible. Thankfully, that's not hard to do out of the gate, but to maximize your engine's life, an oil separator like this is a great little mod that can help keep your engine running better for much longer. And J&L makes, in my opinion, some of the best ones on the market. They've designed this in-house to integrate perfectly into your standard PCV system. And this separator is going to trap fine oil vapors in this fine mesh, and then once there are enough particles built up, they're going to fall through this 1/2 inch thick 1/16 aluminum honeycomb filter that you can see right here. They then fall down and are trapped in this 3-ounce can, which you can easily remove to clean and empty. And then the air is going to continue to flow through uninterrupted, keeping the pressure stabilized, and then all the excess oil is going to stay behind. So your engine is going to run free of oil and carbon buildup. Now this is all that J&L does, so they do a really good job of these in my opinion. They're compact, it's well built, and it feels like a solid piece. The base of the tank here has this knurled texture on it, so it's easy to remove and clean too. Now, let's address the size of this. 3 ounces sounds like a pretty small amount, and it is. However, most engines are only going to produce about 1 ounce of oil every 1,000 miles. Your mileage may vary there depending on how and where you drive your 4Runner. J&L recommends that you check this canister every 500 to 1,000 miles or so when you first install it to get an idea of when it needs to be serviced and emptied. However, your engine may not produce as much oil vapor, so you might be able to go for longer. For example, if you live in a cold climate or you're doing more frequent short trips, it's likely that you're going to need to check this more often, since cold weather and short trips means that there's going to be more condensation and therefore more oil in here. Now there's also an extended 6-ounce can available should you want a longer service interval or need that extra capacity. We do have those available on our site as well. Construction-wise, this whole thing is milled from a solid piece of aluminum, so again, it's just a really nice solid piece, and it feels every bit of it. At the cap here, you've got a big thick O-ring to prevent spillage, and J&L also includes all new lines with quick disconnects at the end. So this is easy to install, and it's gonna come pre-cut. You don't have to modify anything. You basically just have to put this together, plug a few things, and you're ready to go. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And of course, the top and the can are both anodized in black, so this is gonna look really nice and clean when you get it installed in your engine bay. In fact, most people aren't even gonna notice it at first glance, which makes it for a nice stealthy installation. Now pricing for this one is going to come in at just about $200, which makes it a very affordable modification as well. And for the price, it just makes a whole lot of sense. This is going to help keep the top end of your engine much cleaner, which means that it's going to run better and run longer. So if you are planning on keeping your 4Runner around for a while, it's definitely worth your while to pick one of these up, spend a little time installing it. It's also going to cost you much less to buy and install this than it would to have your shop do even just one valve cleaning or, have the intake manifold blasted out. So this is definitely going to save you money in the long run, and you're not going to have to worry about that maintenance problem later on down the line. Installation is going to get a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should only take you about 1 hour to complete, possibly even a little less depending on your familiarity with your engine bay. But the inclusion of the new lines and the bracket here make this a really easy job to accomplish at home. It's just a few bolts and pop it a couple lines on. So with that, let's head on out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet, a deep 10mm socket, and a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Hi everyone. Today we're installing an oil separator on our 4Runner, so let's get started. First thing we need to do is remove our engine cover. Now depending on the year of your 4Runner, you may have a couple of 10mm bolts that need to be coming off on the front here. Ours does not have that, so all we have to do is just lift up off of the studs here, and then pull it out off of this bar. Now with our engine cover out of the way, we can go ahead and disconnect our PCV hose, which is right here, connected to the intake and the valve cover. So we've got a couple of spring clips that we need to take off of there, and then we can remove that hose. So the first end of our PCV hose is right here on the intake manifold. You can see this little spring clamp right here. You just have to squeeze that together and drop it down, and then you can pop the hose right off. Now, if you follow that hose back to the back of the valve cover, there is another clamp back there, just like that one that we took off. So you squeeze that one together, lift it up, and then go ahead and pull the hose off. And this is what our hose looks like once it's disconnected. Now, as you can see, there are two hoses included in our kit. We have one that's long and one that's short. The long one is going to connect to our PCV valve on the valve cover in the back, and the short one is going to connect to our intake right here. So we are going to be reusing the spring clamps that we took off earlier, so you'll need to pull those off of the original hose. So we'll go ahead and slide our spring clamp on our PCV line here. And then we're going to feed this in from the back side, behind these brackets here, and up to the front of the engine. So we'll go ahead and feed this in like so. Guide it up towards the front. Behind the other bracket. Then we can go ahead and push it onto our PCV valve. Once we've got that on, we go ahead and open up our clamp simply by squeezing the ends together. All right, and then we'll slide that down towards the bottom of the hose and open it back up. Now we'll do the same thing with our intake hose. We'll feed that in alongside the other hose that we ran. Slide our spring clamp over the short end on the 90-degree bend and push it up onto the intake. Now you may find it necessary, especially on this hose here that goes to the intake, to put a little bit of oil on the inside of the hose or on the fitting itself, just to make it easier to go on. Now, as you can see, ours went on with no problem, but if it is a very tight fit, go ahead and put a little lube on there and go ahead and put it into place. Now we'll put our clamp into place, and now we can connect our hoses to our oil separator. So just to give you a better visualization, this is the hose that we just installed, the shorter of the two hoses with our spring clamp on it here. And then our longer hose goes all the way back here to the back of the valve cover and the PCV valve back here. Now our longer hose that's connected to our PCV valve on the valve cover is located right here. If you follow that 90-degree bend down, you'll see the clamp right there and the PCV valve that screws into the valve cover right below it. Now we'll go ahead and put our mounting bracket onto our oil separator, and as you can see, the logos match up just exactly. So we'll go ahead and line up our holes. And then using the supplied screws, we'll go ahead and get those started. And once you've got one started, we'll go ahead and insert the other one. And then using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, we'll go ahead and tighten those down. All right, now we can go ahead and connect our two hoses. Now the one that's coming off of the intake manifold, the shorter of the two hoses, is going to go on the side where the C is located in the logo. We'll go ahead and push that on. And you do not need any clamps for these ends of the hoses. And then we'll take our longer hose, which is from our PCV valve on the back of the valve cover, on the O side of the logo. We'll go ahead and push that on. All right, once we've got that on, we can go ahead and use our 10mm socket to remove this stud right here, and we'll put the bracket on underneath that stud. With the stud off, go ahead and put our bracket in place and replace the stud. Now we're not going to tighten that down just yet because we want to check the fitment of the engine cover. So once we've got this in, we can go ahead and replace our engine cover. We'll just snap that onto the bar in the back, lower it down, make sure that it's not making a hard contact, and it can be touching, and it probably will, and that's okay as long as it's not forcibly touching the oil separator. So once we know exactly where it's going to be, go ahead and remove our engine cover again, and go ahead and tighten down our stud. Now with our stud in place, go ahead and replace our valve cover. Now with our stud secured, we go ahead and replace our engine cover. And then lock it down on the studs. And that wraps up our review and install of the J&L 3.0 oil separator with the black anodized finish for the driver's side of your 05 and newer 4-liter 4Runner. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things 4Runner, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.